Well, first of all, thank you all for joining today. Looking forward to a lively discussion on uh, Pirket Daled. Um, and I found that there is a blessing that we say before we study Pirkei Avot. And I'm putting it up right now. Everybody see it?
Yes.
All right,
Marty,
Shelley?
before we start that,
All
I
right.
need to tell people that this is being recorded and will be shared publicly if anybody can find it and wants it. If you do not wish to appear and or be heard, you know how to turn your camera and your microphone on and off. But we do want to see you and hear you. And if you wish not to appear at all, please change your name or initials to a nickname of your choosing. So that's what Samantha told me I have to say. And there we go. Okay, Marty, take it away.
All right, thank you. So let's do this this blessing before we do Pirkei Avot. We can do this together. Kol Yisrael yesh lachem chelek leolam haba. Shenamar ve'amech kulam tzadikim leolam Yerusha Aretz Natser Natai Naisei Yad. All Israel have a portion in the world to come, as is written, your people shall all be righteous. They shall possess the land forever. They are a shoot of my planting, the work of my hands, in whom I shall be glorified.
Amen.
Amen. Now, I am going to share my screen, which is the text. Can anybody see that?
No, I've still got that original.
You're back on the blessing.
Okay, hang on. I think I have to stop the share and start. I think I have to stop this share and then the other share, I think.
It depends, Marty, on whether you're sharing your screen or whether you're sharing the document. That's all. They both work.
I am sharing the screen, hopefully, which has the document on it. How about that?
That works.
You got it?
Okay.
Yeah.
What a great technology, I tell you. Unbelievable. Shabbat Shalom, David.
Shabbat Shalom, Marty.
All right. So I have the honor of learning with you today. And I thought we'd start off at the top. And who would like to read the English? We have, so you all know about Pirkei. It's the sayings of the fathers as it's translated. And essentially, they are teachings of how to live life. I mean, that's probably just a good way of any. So why don't we read the first the first Mishnah, excuse me, Mishnayot, I should say. So who wants to read the English?
The whole thing?
The first section there.
Okay.
Samuel 2:30.
Ben Zoma said, "Who is wise? He who learns from every man, as it is said, from all who taught me have I gained understanding. Who is mighty? He who subdues his evil inclination, as it is said, he that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that rules his spirit than he takes a city. Who is rich? Who rejoices in his lot, as it is said, you shall enjoy the fruit of your labors, you shall be happy, and you shall prosper. You shall be happy in this world, and you shall prosper in the world to come. Who is he that is honored? He who honors his fellow human beings, as it is said, for I honor those that honor me, but those who spurn me shall be dishonored."
Okay, thank you. So what do you think about this? So it seems to say that the pursuit of happiness begins and ends with inner peace. What do you think? Don't know.
He who subdues his evil inclination.
Right.
Yep.
No room for discussion here. We're all in agreement.
Well, it's the one theme, running theme here is the importance of self-control.
Ah.
That we all have the capability to do evil, to think badly of other people, to be perennially dissatisfied with our situation, and to seek to aggrandize ourselves with others. And all of these are, all of these will make us miserable. And the key to not living that way is to control your inclination, a natural inclination to do all of those things.
So, and yes, were you done, David?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. I kind of see what you mean, Marty, by inner peace, if is that the phrase you used?
Yes.
What?
Go ahead. Yes, I'm agreeing. Go ahead.
But I'm not sure that is, because it's a struggle. I think it's a constant struggle within ourselves to make that happen. Like if David's talking about being able to conquer our, these innate inclinations, then we are struggling with that.
Right.
And maybe the goal is inner peace. Maybe I can agree with you on that. The goal may be inner peace.
Mm-hmm.
Being okay with ourselves. Maybe it's just being okay with ourselves. But I think it's a constant struggle. If that's,
Right.
I don't know if I'm adding to this conversation, but that's kind of how.
No, your comments are as valid as anybody's. Also, there's always a balance, as you know, between the Yetzer Hatov, the Yetzer Hara, the good inclinations and the bad inclinations, and that's what we struggle with our entire lives. Which ones are going to take over and dominate the other. Anybody else want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, could I say, in my Musar class, which Yael is in also, we were doing simplicity, and this Pirket Avot this phrase came up: "Who is the wealthy man? He is who is content with what he has." It's quoted everywhere, and we talked about it in the context of being not necessarily inner peace, but satisfied with what you have. And I have all these Pirket Avot commentaries. This one is written by a psychologist called A Tree by the Waters. And he talks about a different perspective rather than the material or our bodies, that the Hebrew is sameach b'chalko, the happy person, is the concern is not with what one has, but rather with what one is. Not with a static materialistic possessiveness, but rather with an active humanistic process orientation, and so forth. I've always found this to be a really powerful and wise part of Pirket Avot, because we live in a pretty materialistic society, and it's hard to detach or to keep the deeper values. And I always felt this really reflected it, that those people who are content with what they have, not wanting more, and often it's material things, but I guess it could be other things as well, are just they're more content with their lives. They are the rich people. So anyway, I find it a really powerful and meaningful Ben Zoma, very wise person.
Right. Thank you.
I agree with you, Esther, on that. I mean, I like that interpretation too. I think it's really healthy to be okay with where you are, to be satisfied. Not that you shouldn't strive, but to be satisfied and not try to keep up with the
You just fell into I was about to say that. Is there a difference being happy with your lot and being complacent? In other words, do we say, look, I've got enough, I'm going to sit here and I'm not going to go forward or improve? Or is it like, okay, I'll sit?
Right.
There
I
would,
didn't fall into that trap now, did I?
I was just going to comment, because this is one of the most famous pieces, and every year when we get to it, I always have this discussion with myself about, would there be art? You know, would there be great music? Would there be innovations? You know, what is it that drives some of the, I'll just call it progress.
Mhm.
Because at a personal level, to be happy and content with one's lot in life is a very positive thing. But for a societal level, I just worry that it would not promote some things that make our communities and our world better. That's all. Food
Thank
for
you.
thought.
You know, I'm reminded of something in the earlier part of the 20th century, the US they were thinking about closing, the government's considering closing the patent office because they thought that anything that's been invented has already been invented and nothing else is going to be happening. So just to know that.
Isn't that interesting?
Judith, Ellen, or Esther, you want to weigh in?
No, not at the moment, thank you.
Ellen?
So I don't think it's necessarily binary. So I kind of feel like, let's say that an individual is happy with their situation, their lot, what they have, and so forth. Doesn't mean that you might not be excited about finding a new idea or going somewhere new. Or I don't think being happy with what you have means you sort of shut down and don't seek different things or additional things.
Thank you. Who else? Esther, you want to say something?
I will say something.
Please.
What I understand, and I agree who said, the inner peace. It's not the surrounding. What bechalko, it means you're in peace with yourself, whatever you have. You have no, each time you go forwards, it doesn't matter if you get more or you get less, you are in peace. You don't fight it. That's how I see it. So I agree whoever said being in inner peace, because I think that's what actually it means, but I might be wrong.
Okay, thank you. Yaira.
I'm reminded of a teaching that I heard, and I've been racking my brain trying to remember who it's from. I can't. I will at 2 a.m. though. I'm
Let us know then, okay?
but
Send us all a text at 2 a.m.
But the idea of how are we to deal with our Yetzer Hara? And the teaching went as follows. Don't try to defeat your evil inclination. Rather, learn from it. For instance, a student was complaining, I wake up in the morning and there's my Yetzer Hara. He said, so what you can learn from this is get up earlier. In other words, and if every time you go to do a mitzvah, the Yetzer Hara is already there, what does that tell you? You have to be a little more, you have to take a little more initiative. And I know that our rabbis have on many different occasions pushed back on this idea of unilaterally condemning the so-called Yetzer Hara, because as it was earlier mentioned, without our competitive nature is simply that, it's a competitive nature. How we use it, therein lay the difference, because without that inclination and being channeled in appropriate ways, we in fact, no one would ever build a house, no one would ever start a business, and so on and so forth. It's where there's a perversion of what our intention is, when it's to, beat down somebody else, when it's to take unfair advantage, and so on and so forth. You already know the laundry list yourselves. But I like the idea of clothing my Yetzer Hara in the garb of a teacher. What is it teaching me about myself, rather than dismissing?
I like that. And in a similar vein, I think we can learn from displays of Yetzer Hara in others.
Oh, I see my Yetzer Hara most clearly in others.
Right, and when we see others behaving badly, if we try to understand why they're behaving that way, sometimes we can gain insights into ourselves and how we would behave in a similar situation. Understand maybe that what is causing the bad behavior is something that is not on the surface, that is a problem that lies at some deeper level because of the way their life has turned out, or the way they were brought up. Not to justify what they're doing, but just to understand it better and possibly apply those lessons to yourself.
That's the
Thank
key
you.
to be able, I think.
I also wanted to just share that we're talking about the pursuit of happiness, that happiness is really a function of the effort we put forth toward the realization of our life's goals.
Mhm.
That is pretty interesting. Let's move on. Let's go to the next Mishnah. This would be 4.4, Rabbi Levitas. Would somebody like to read that? I will move down. You see it, Rabbi Levitas? Who wants to read?
I'll read if I can find it.
Right there on the screen.
Matty, can you bring the Hebrew too up?
Yeah, sure. Hebrew's great. Yeah, go with Hebrew, or Yiddish is okay too. Go ahead. Go with Hebrew though.
I prefer the Greek.
Understand, I want you to
Oh, wait a
bring.
minute, I got to go up a little bit. Sorry.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
All right, there you go. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Did you mute yourself?
Can't hear you, Esther. Are you muted?
I'm not muted. I'm reading it in Hebrew. You guys
Go for it. Read it to us.
Read it aloud in Hebrew.
רבי לויטס איש יבנה אומר, מאוד מאוד הווה שפל רוח, שתקוות אנוש רימה. רבי יוחנן בר ברוקה אומר, כל המחלל שם שמיים בסתר, נפרעים ממנו בגלוי, אחד שוגג ואחד מזיד בחילול השם.
Very good. A man, oops. Okay. All right, so it says, man of Yavne, be exceedingly humble spirit, for the end of man is the worm. What in the world does that mean?
It means the worms crawl in, the worms crawl out. The worms play pinochle on your snout.
Ground and the worms are eating you up.
Yeah,
Matty,
an insight.
Matty, can you go back to the Hebrew, please?
Sure.
Please?
Yeah,
There you go.
leave it here. That's it.
Oh, Rima. Okay. Rima is not a worm. It's something else. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right, what's a rima?
It's a crawly, but it's not a worm. It's a face of a worm.
Okay. All right,
Okay.
what's the point? What's the point of having this in there anyway? All right, so what are they talking about?
You're gonna die.
You're gonna die. Everybody's gonna die.
Basically, what's it? Go ahead. Read it in English.
All right. Rabbi Levitas, a man of Yavne, said, be exceeding humble spirit, for the end of man is the worm.
But, can I mention that in Sidor Lev Shalom, or whatever it's called, Shalem, it says, it translates that as the grave. So it's a little clearer than the worm.
Ah, okay,
Right.
very good.
It's a, you disintegrated. Okay,
It's the same message as Kohelet.
Yeah.
Don't imagine that whatever you're creating is going to last forever, that it will permanently glorify you, because you know nothing lasts forever.
Right.
If I could just throw in from the Alkali dictionary, rima is translated as worm, but then in parentheses it throws in especially in graves, in the insects that one finds in a grave after a while, and it is used in speech figuratively to connote worthlessness.
Uh-huh. Okay, so in other words, don't be so arrogant or you'll be worm food.
There are no
No, don't be so
pumpkins
arrogant,
in
because
Shroud.
you will be worm food.
Right, got it.
Yeah,
That's a positive message, right? So there you go. Okay,
ease up.
It's a helpful message.
Very.
yes. Okay, then we move on to 4, 5. Rabbi Yochanan. Oh, wait, hang on. Rabbi Yochanan Barucha says, where's for that?
Marty, it's the same piece. It depends on which source, whether it's
Oh,
one
here
or.
it is. Yeah, you're right. Can you see my cursor up here?
Yes.
All right, let's do that.
Well,
We already read it, but okay. So anyway, anybody who desecrates the name of heaven, they should be punished publicly. Really?
He shall be punished in
Right.
the open.
Right. We have
Meaning that
nowadays, we put in stocks like they used to do in the colonial times. Is that really helpful?
well, you're reading that very literally. I think the idea is that if you carry that attitude within yourself, whether or not you actually express it, it will manifest itself in ways that are out in the open.
Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in on that one?
Me.
Go ahead.
This week, 2 days ago, no, it was yesterday, Temple, oh my God, Central Synagogue in New York put a big letter condemning one of the rabbis that were there up till 85 who abused some women. And just now they went to the current rabbi and complained. And now they're facing a big moral issues to deal with within the temple, but they did put it out and put him.
So he was publicly shamed, as you're saying?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay. Anybody else? Okay.
I suppose though that
Go for it.
the first question that would come to mind is, if you did something wrong in secret, how's it going to come out in public? Who's going to find out?
word of mouth.
Well,
I'm sorry?
It will, if you have a profane attitude internally, it will influence your behavior, wherever you go, whatever you do.
Yes.
You may think you're keeping it to yourself, but your behavior will betray you.
But that's an awful lot to read into the text.
Well,
I mean, I don't disagree with you, but
yeah, I suppose you're right, but I can't. It's the only way I can derive any value from this idea.
I'm reminded of the book on morality from Rabbi Sachs that many people have read, that one of the indictments he had about social media is that a lot of times you can hide behind an identity. There's no real way to hold you accountable because nobody knows who you are. And so I wonder if this is part of that, is that you really, it's very hard to be shamed publicly nowadays. And people get away with saying the most outrageous things because nothing's going to happen to them, you know, in the end.
May I?
Go ahead.
I have a wonderful new book, a social justice commentary on Pirkei Avot by Shmuley Yankelowitz. And he says, anyone can be pious while sitting in the pews. Anyone can be kind to their friends and family, but to consistently act justly with strangers marks the truly righteous person. Maimonides taught that one can desecrate God's name without even sinning. The means by which a person can commit a chilul Hashem can surely be seen as subjective and can occur when one has done nothing objectively wrong at all, but has caused the public to talk against them and view their commandments in a more negative light. Following that, Yitz Greenberg describes Rabbi Yochanan ben Baroka's other concerns to have theological implications. He seems to have been particularly sensitive to women's issues, and among his rulings are that a father is obligated to support his daughters, not just his sons, and that women are equally obligated in the mitzvah to be fruitful and multiply, which is not the majority of view in the Talmud. So we continue.
Can I say something, Marty?
Sure, of course.
Okay. Kol ha-mechalel shem shamayim b'seter. It means God knows you are cursing or whatever, but you are going to be punished by the mighty. And everybody is going to see you are punished. That's how I interpret that.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
that's yeah, and that's where I have a problem. I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that's literally, I think that's probably the most faithful interpretation. But for those of us who don't believe that God reaches down and influences our, you know, our lives day to day, that it doesn't directly interfere with what we're doing down here. It's kind of hard to, you know, it's kind of hard to, you know, hard to believe that we should behave well because we're going to be instantly punished for it.
It doesn't have to be instantly.
Well,
The Hindu mantra, karma. And I think it doesn't have to be instantaneously. Eventually, you're going to be paying.
well, that's closer to what we were saying earlier, that it's really the way you behave with other people is going to influence how the world treats you. That is not God's intervention.
So I was going to say, by the way, who is doing the punishing? I mean, you can punish yourself, if you will, with a guilty conscience and make amends, but it sounds as though some external force is going to be doing the punishing.
Yeah. Okay. Shall we move on? Let's go to 11. Rabbi Yonatan.
I think you bypassed that already.
Yonatan Hassandlar?
Did I pass it?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
you did. Here.
Oh, I did.
Oh,
And
There you
then
go.
go down.
it's in the middle of one of the.
Oh, is
Oh.
I have it as 11, so maybe
Okay, Rabbi.
it's wrong.
Okay.
What's that?
I think it's 9 on that one.
Yeah, okay, here we go.
It's 11 in the, in other places.
Okay. All right, very good. Anyone who implements the Torah? Okay. Who wants to read the Hebrew quickly and then we'll go into the English? How about Dave? What?
רבי יונתן אומר, כל המקיים את התורה מעוני, סופו לקיימה מאושר. וכל המבטל את התורה מאושר, סופו לבטלה מעוני.
Okay. English?
What I have here is Rabbi Yonatan said, whoever fulfills the Torah despite poverty will ultimately fulfill it in wealth. But whoever neglects the Torah because of wealth will ultimately neglect it in poverty.
Ah.
It's a nice one.
And then that ties into the next one where it's Rabbi Meir, the number 10. So why don't we just do that one too? Yael, you're on a roll.
רבי מאיר אומר, הווי ממעט בעסק ועסוק בתורה, והווי שפל רוח בפני כל אדם. ואם בטלת מן התורה, יש לך בטלים הרבה כנגדך. ואם עמלת בתורה, יש לו שכר הרבה ליתן לך.
Rabbi Meir said, engage but little in business and busy yourself with the Torah. Be of humble spirit before all men. If you have neglected the Torah, you shall have many who bring you to neglect it. But if you have labored at the study of Torah, there is much reward to give unto you. All right. Who wants to weigh in on that? What do you think about that, guys?
Well, for one thing, it's a very interesting thing to say when it was clearly obvious that there were people who engaged in business and became wealthy and remained wealthy.
Okay.
I think this is a and I don't think this begrudges wealthy people their wealth. I think this is a warning against being distracted. That whatever your day-to-day concerns are, be sure that you are giving the appropriate amount of time to the Torah, because it is easy to be distracted and set it aside. And the more you do that, the more it will be reinforced by everything around you.
All right. Thank you. I'm reminded, Roberta, what is the phrase you have at the end of your signature?
What? Excuse me?
Your signature, your emails, it's the Hillel quote that
Yes. It says, don't say that I'll study when I have time, because you may not have the time.
right. Very good.
Basically, what it's saying to you, you have to have a balance between one and the other. That's basically it. You cannot only learn Torah or only be a business person. You have to have a balance between both of them in order to be happy.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
let me ask you this.
I don't think, sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I don't, the Sim Shalom translation says, decrease your absorption in business. I don't think it's saying don't earn a living.
No.
I think it's really, the engage has more to do with focus and the balance others have mentioned, so.
Okay. So here's a question. What about the Haredim in Israel that just live in poverty because all the men do is study and they don't work? And
Let's not get into judging others.
I'm not. That's not a judgment. I just say, what do you think about it?
I think it's great. Why? Do you have a problem with it?
Yeah, I do actually, but that's okay. Remember that, the rabbis in ancient times all had professions. They all worked.
And
Yeah.
thank goodness that fault which we see in them is limited.
What's that? I'm sorry.
I said, and thank goodness that fault, which is so easy to see in them, is limited only to them and does not occur amongst us.
Right.
Okay.
Right, because we're perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't making a judgment. I was just making an observation is a better word, perhaps.
Well, I have to say that sometimes there are a lot of people who don't study Torah at all. So if we put it all together, it balances out. Those who study all the time and
Right.
those who don't study. So
Right.
All right. So the
Right.
Haredim are studying for us, right?
Right. So
There you go.
right.
And thank you for that.
And that's just a situation that this Mishnah is warning us about.
Right. Okay, anybody else want to wait?
And I mean, on the topic, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that that community is actually supported by other communities, not necessarily in Israel. And those communities are supported by people who engage in business.
Well,
Right.
So it's you know, in an earlier model in the small village that, you know, a lot of our grandparents, et cetera, came from, there was a community support so that some could learn and some made sure there was bread on the table. I'm just saying it's balanced.
well, right. But the idea was that you would support the Talmid Chacham, and not that everybody who felt like it got to study all the time.
Yes, that's true, David. That model was for the community to support a few.
Right. Okay. Shall we move on?
Doing it now in Temple Emmanuel, we are supporting our clergy. It's just a more modern approach to it.
Well, but they work. I mean, there's a big difference. They're of service to our community in a lot of different ways.
Which is what the rabbis were, or the chachim, or whoever you want to say for those communities.
Okay.
So,
All right.
Marty, could you put it back on the screen for a second? Because I just wanted to
All right.
see what people thought about this one thing. Wait a second. It was there a second ago.
Okay, go ahead. Right here.
No, well, I don't see it. It's below. I
Oh,
think
really?
On my screen, I think you have to go. No, that's not it.
Other way, Marty.
Right.
I think
There it
Ellen
is.
saw something as you were
Here it is,
scrolling
here it is.
up.
Oh, sorry.
I'm looking
Where
for the
do,
sentence about if you neglect, then there will be many to neglect.
Right. That was what we were reading before.
I know, well, before.
Back to where we were before.
I just wanted to see that for a second. Okay, I don't,
Back where we were before, Marty.
yes,
Rabbi
wait,
Eliezer?
There it is. Yes. If you have
No.
neglected the Torah, you shall have many who bring you to neglect it.
yeah, but okay, so maybe my screen is small, but I just, here it is, okay, yeah, okay. If you have neglected the Torah, right, you shall have many who bring you to neglect it. So I'm just looking at the tenses here. And does that mean kind of like, if you have neglected it, then you're going to fall in with these other people who all neglect it? It's kind of like, you know, because also it's not, and then you say, but if you have labored, those two sentences, parts of the sentence, those two clauses, the one that starts with if and the one that starts with but, they're not parallel to each other. They're two different things. One, the first half, I think means if you have neglected it, you'll end up with lots of people, you know, those will be sort of like birds of a feather that flock together, because with the tense, and maybe, you know, I should look back at the Hebrew better, but why would it say if you have neglected, you shall have many who bring you to neglect it? So that's, you know, that's kind of a thought. And then the second half is a completely different, unparalleled thing about you'll be rewarded if you labor at the Torah. So yeah, that's clear.
Well, don't you think that, I'm sorry, Maida, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
It's okay.
Oh, okay. So don't you think that it's more like, if you neglect it, there are plenty of people around you who are going to say, oh yeah, don't worry, it's not a problem.
Yes.
Yeah, they're going to reinforce it.
Exactly.
Can I just ask a translation problem? Because again, in our prayer book, it says many, if you are idle in the study of Torah, many idle things will distract you. It doesn't bring in people. And I just wonder, for those of you who are very proficient in Hebrew, how would you say it, right? Is that the phrase?
Well, betalim.
How would you translate? Is that people or things?
dismiss.
Oh, am I in the wrong, I'm in the wrong one?
Dismiss.
Where is it?
No, that's it. The key is the word batalim.
Yeah, okay, so what is that? Is it people or things? Or could it be obviously translated as both? But Ellen, what you were talking about, to me, if the translation is not even people, but many idle things will distract you, it gives a different flavor to it.
It does, yeah.
Could I just point out, one of my gripes with our Sidurim is that they mistranslate or deliberately not translate what the text says. And that already is commentary of a sort, and it definitely misleads people. So that's just in general, do not rely on Lev Shalom or Sim Shalom or any of our prayer books. They're not accurate.
Correct.
Okay, but I can tell you, I'm looking at the Barbanel translation here, and this one has, if you neglect the Torah, many causes for neglecting it will present themselves to you. So that sort of subsumes
Oh,
both.
wow.
It has people and things distracting you. So
I
that's
think
another.
neither one is wrong. It's just a matter of emphasis. I mean,
Yeah, but
the word,
anyway, I know
the
we don't want
word,
to get,
the word levatel is to stop or to do nothing, right?
No.
No, no.
But batlan is somebody who's kind of idle, right?
Lazy.
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 Idle.
Mevatel is dismissed.
Idle.
In Hebrew, mevatel, it means dismissed.
all right, well, we don't want to get too bogged down with this. The point was, it may not specifically say that other people will be a problem. Then the lack of parallelism, perhaps Ellen won't be as distressing.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
I think the lack of parallelism is intentional. I don't think it was intended to be directly parallel.
Okay, let's move on. We just have a few more minutes remaining. I want to go to Rabbi Yehuda, and I'm going to scroll a little bit because my pagination a little off.
Well, you just passed
Yeah,
it.
I think
Wait,
it's
wait,
right there.
Here.
Yeah, all right, here we go. Okay, how about the Esther, please? Rabbi Yehuda Omer.
הווה זהיר בתלמוד, ששיגית תלמוד עולה זדון. רבי שמעון אומר, 3 כתרים הם, כתר תורה וכתר כהונה וכתר מלכות, וכתר שם טוב עולה על גביהם.
Thank you. Rabbi Yehuda said, be careful in study, for an error in study counts as a deliberate sin, excuse me. Rabbi Shimon says there are 3 crowns, the crown of Torah, the crown of priesthood, and the crown of royalty, but the crown of a good name supersedes them all. Is there any question or anything you want to discuss about that, or it's pretty much a platitude and let's move on?
Well, it's interesting that they put the 2 ideas together.
yes, not clear why.
Well, they must have had a reason, so let us deliberate a bit.
Because they didn't know where else to put it.
Again, they're not
All the
put
news is
together.
fit to print.
They're not
all the
put
news is
together
print-
elsewhere.
Yeah.
Interpretation.
They're not together in every edition. Okay.
That's right. In their prayer book, they're separate. Number 16 and number 17.
Again, I'm saying, do not rely on our prayer books. They are not accurate.
Yes, because an error in study counts as a deliberate sin.
Exactly.
That's right.
And yet we're not supposed to demean, we're not supposed to criticize our prayer book, are we?
I would debate that. Yes, we can criticize. I criticize it constantly. It drives me crazy. But
Well, may I
look,
please? It says in mine, truth matters. We must guard the sacred truths of the universe, and at times human dignity, even human life is at stake. When it comes to our interpretations of the truth, we should be cautious, as Rabbi Yehuda states in this Mishnah, meticulous. So what this is saying is, yes, in fact, it is critical. Excuse me. Can someone move along because I'm coughing?
So, be careful what you study. I mean, sometimes stuff that's not helpful. If I study how to make a bomb, that's not terribly helpful, right? So,
Well, it depends on the circumstances.
okay. All right.
Does
When
learning- oh,
when partisans were fighting the Nazis, learning how to make a bomb was very helpful.
Okay. Good point.
Yeah, I see this as an incentive for taking real care in your study,
mhm.
for trying to think of it from every side, for trying to go to a few additional sources or opinions or things, and not to be arrogant to take the first idea that you have and to spread it and to teach it, because that's dangerous. So that's how I've always read that.
Well, I would
Okay.
agree, because what exactly is an error in study? I mean, how do you know that you're making one? You take one interpretation and another person says, no, that's wrong. Is that an error on your part?
But
Well,
isn't that,
Not
That's what I like
necessarily.
that's what I like about what Maida said, because I think it's the error may be not studying closely enough and bringing
Exactly.
and and being thorough in your research, so to speak, to make sure that you've gotten.
Well, and
And-
in truth these days, sorry, you're just one
No, no, no.
follow-on point. These days, we could all point to things in the news. I'm not getting political. I'm just saying that our society is full of things promoted by people who are convinced that they have the right of it.
Mm.
Okay, and that comes from, if I'm being charitable, untrustworthy, insufficient sources to promote that. Okay, I think that's fair.
Yes.
So I think this is the being an advocate for going beyond what so and so says and actually doing the research for yourself. We've all been in the situation where we say, how on earth could anyone believe that, right?
Right.
And I think that's what this is about. So that's it. I'm
Thank you.
sorry, your ear. I apologize.
No,
please.
don't,
No,
Was
no.
it Carol that spoke before?
Yes,
Yeah,
it was.
Carol? Okay, I wanted to just amplify what Carol said, because I don't know about you all when you were in college, but a lot of times people would sort of, as they used to say, study for the test and not necessarily learn the material. So they would, we also used to call it back in the days when telephones had cords and dials, is that they were flush-minded, meaning that they had the material in their head until the test was over, and then they flushed it out of their mind and they didn't learn anything. So I was just wondering, that amplified what Carol was saying before, is that, are you learning it just to pass the test? Are you learning it to learn it to keep it forever?
Well, that wasn't, I understand your point. It wasn't exactly my point, but
Oh, sorry.
yeah, Ira, I think, was going to say something, no?
Go for it, Yer.
okay. I think there are a couple of different levels that are happening here, and I will try to be brief. I know, a challenge for me. The whole business of an error in study. I think that this really exemplifies why we put so much emphasis on studying in Chevruta. When you have that study buddy, that that person, they know you have maybe a common language. But the whole idea is that when you study in Chevruta, there aren't two sitting down to the text, but three. Call it the shared mind, call it the influence from Hashem. But the idea of, this is important, what we're doing here. So we don't want to fall in love with our own idea, but are open to our study buddy pointing things out, not in order to say, oh, you're wrong on this point, but rather to say, let's pick apart the analysis. But the fact that this gets linked up in this presentation with the 3 crowns, and what is the first thing that comes to your mind? I know to my mind, a crown is something physical, something I can see. It's an advertisement of that person's power, that person's accumulated accomplishments. It's like earning some degree or some position in society. But then it says, but the crown of a good name supersedes them all. And I think that throughout our study of Pirkei Avot, if there is one quality that gets touted more than any other, it is the quality of humility. Different than humiliation. Humility is simply the ability to not be so attached to your ideas, your accomplishments, but to be able to be open enough to look at things from another perspective, and to get another's opinion. And now I'm going into long-windedness, if not.
No, yeah, I think you're right. I think ultimately the reason that these two ideas are paired together is that if in the course of your study or in whatever you do due diligence, in other words, you look at all points of view, then you have a good name, you have a good reputation, you're a fair, impartial person. And that's the point of the whole text. Which is essentially, I think, if I understood you correctly, essentially what you're saying.
Yeah, crown of a good name. You get more news feeds than just those which agree with the opinion that you've already formed in your mind.
Right.
You'll actually look at Fox News once in a while, or Al Jazeera, and so on.
Okay. All right. One last one before we end for today. Rabbi Mattia, I'm attempting to find that. It's, again, my pagination a little off. By Eliezer.
Rabbi Mattia ben Charash said.
Yeah, that one. Did I miss it?
Well, I have it as 420. Rabbi Mattia ben Charash said, initiate a greeting to every person and be a tail to lions rather than a head to foxes.
Okay, what in the world does that mean?
I think that means when you walk down the street in your neighborhood and you say hi to everybody with a smile on your face, that's a really good thing.
Well, I'm reminded of a story that my mother told of her professor at university, who greeted everyone on the street as he passed them. And she asked him once, how do you know all these people? And he said, I can't remember people's names at all, nor their faces. So I just greet everyone in case I insult someone by not greeting them.
And that's exactly here, causing another person to be humiliated in public, i.e. by not recognizing them, acknowledging them, is a serious sin. So if you do, you say, hi, how you doing? This is a good thing.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be based in friendship, but merely in the shared connection between human beings.
Mm-hmm.
My takeaway from all of these is humility.
Yes.
That seems to be an overarching theme today. And I was like pondering over a tail to lions rather than a head to foxes. I'm like, what does that mean? And I was thinking it's maybe, I don't know, but not to be too clever. That's the head of the fox. Maybe is don't be too clever, be humble, don't be about yourself. I kind of think that's what's going on here today in this
Yeah.
very-
Don't be a
very-
jerk.
Here's how I would sum it up.
Excellent. Yes, David.
Just have that ready to flash up.
Perfect.
Rabbi David Omer.
Yofi.
I think the lion is always the symbol of, I mean, it's a symbol of Israel, right? The lion is the symbol of strength and royalty and, you know, all of these very positive things. And
Right.
you should not combat it. You should follow at its tail. That's humility. I agree with you completely, Carol. I don't know, I would have teased that out, but I really agree with you. And the same with the fox. I think the fox, and if you even take it through into things like Aesop's fables, you know, the fox is always the wily animal that tries to get around the law by use of its wit.
Cunning.
Yeah,
Cunning.
and that's not a positive thing in this context.
That's the clever. Clever as a fox.
Clever in ways that
are not-
hurt others.
Exactly. That's what I
Yeah.
meant. That
Yeah.
I, you know.
Yeah.
Carol, I think you got it. I think you are our, you got it for the day. You get an award.
It's only because I fed my head. Thank you for letting me eat my lunch during all this.
I was gonna say, Roberta, she's
Food for
being
the soul.
humble. You should. I'm sorry, I'm teasing at you.
So I have to tell you that once I was taking a summer course in Cambridge, and my then boyfriend and I would go for lunch to Central Square. And on the way, we decided that we would greet everyone that passed us. And let me tell you, all they do is think that we're weird.
Well, that's
Well-
Cambridge. There's
Well,
no
you know,
accounting.
it's
for
Newton
that.
too,
It could be,
believe me.
it could be.
You know, in Newton, I try to say hi to everybody, but people won't make eye contact
No,
most of the
they-
time.
My concern is always, do I know that person? Am I supposed to know that person? Then I
Yeah.
get worried that I don't remember who the people are.
Right, especially with masks.
That's right.
Oh, yes.
Masks. So
Oh, that's the best example, the best thing. If you don't know somebody, you could say, ah, I didn't recognize you with your mask on.
yeah.
And then they
Right.
say, I wasn't wearing a mask, and then you have a problem.
Hey, my friends, I've never done this before, Pirket Avot, and I'm going to be leading next week. So if you guys are here and can help me out with chapter 5, which has lots of numbers and I'm not good at math, I look forward to seeing you and to your help. Thank you.
Nobody here is
Marty?
shy, so you want nothing to worry about.
What? Excuse me, I didn't hear the beginning.
I said nobody here is shy, so nothing to worry about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And Marty can't come next week. But we thank him so much for today. He's
Yes,
been
Yasher Koach.
wonderful.
Brooke, yeah.
And we got through the whole chapter. And the one other thing I ask is, can anybody help me next week tune in, get ourselves
I'm always happy to help with the
That's
technical
great.
side,
that's
Roberta.
great, Maida. Thank you.
Yeah, do you
Yeah,
want to
sorry.
use, I'll talk to you offline if you want to use Safari text or something else.
No, I don't need that. What I need is anyway, I'll talk to you off text. Off-
All right,
Okay,
sorry I
great.
won't be with you. I'm going to be in the Upper West Side, Ir HaKodesh, next week with my daughter, so I will not be with you, but
Okay.
she was
Oh, enjoy, Marty. Nice.
all right.
That's
See you all.
wonderful.
Shalom.
Shabbat shalom, Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom.
Shalom, everybody. Thank you
Shalom.
all.
Thank you, everybody, for your participation.